Hey, hi everyone. Welcome back. Today I'm super excited because I am talking with the beautiful and fabulous Julie Reisler. Hi, Julie.
Hi, Sharon. I feel the same about you.
Oh, you're so sweet. So, Julie and I just probably met again, right, for in this lifetime. And I mean, she's has such an amazing energy and amazing story. And I want to read a little bit from your website, okay? Because I know people are going to really be like, whoa, wow, okay. I want to know her. Okay. So she has a gorgeous website, by the way. So Julie says that I am a spiritual life coach. Think of me as an interior designer for your soul, as a mentor for heart-led change makers. I'm here to guide you back to your best self and help you manifest your biggest dreams. But why me? I'm a master life coach, multi-time TEDx speaker, author, professor at Georgetown University, podcast host, and founder of the Life Designer Coach Academy certification program, an international spiritual coaching and personal development program. For over a decade, I've certified life coaches and helped thousands of big hearted, high achievers and creatives like you overcome self doubt, overwhelm, and fear so you can feel free, clear, and confident to truly be your youest you. We all have the power to intentionally design our dream lives, and I'll show you how. That is amazing. I love that. And you are the author of the book, Get a PhD in You.
You got it. Wow. It's
Okay.
hear all that. Yes, yes, yes.
I love that so much. So, I mean, you actually, and you have cards too, correct? And journals.
Yes, we
Okay.
can actually pull a card if you want at the end. I've got some
Mm.
here.
Oh, I
You
would
want-
love that. Yeah, I would love that. Okay. So I'm so excited to hear some of we just talked a little bit in working together, and so I'm really happy to have you here and honored. Thank you, to share some of your history with my audience here. And do you mind starting with that, please?
Yeah. Oh, I'm like, well, I want to say thank you for having me. And it's so interesting. I love how the universe, the divine works. I had heard you on a podcast where
Mm.
there was a similar question. And I was like, oh, please tell me your stories. And you had actually talked about your near-death experiences, both of them. And I remember I was walking on the treadmill and I almost fell when I heard the story with the bus and I was like, wow, this woman is a badass. So anyhow, I'm, I'm thrilled to be here. And I think, in terms of like, like, well, where to begin with this?
Mhm.
Maybe it's important to just for those that are like into astrology and into kind of tuning into the cosmic energies. I'm a Sagittarius sun sign. I've got a lot of Sagittarius in my chart. I am an Aquarius rising and an Aries moon. And I
Mm.
say that just for those that are a little bit even dabbling. For me, I can't help myself but want to really understand greater truths in the world and teach that and apply these lessons and learn and aim for greater consciousness and greater heart connection. It's like it's in my makeup. And it's interesting. I guess I'll say it this way. I grew up in the Boston area, like right near, for those who know, like the corridor that has like Harvard and MIT and
Mm.
Tufts. I grew up right there in the mecca of a lot of smart people, a lot of intellectualism. And, I did well in school. I tried really hard. That was never, though, my first language. I always felt this deeper connection to something greater than myself. I always felt like my heart wanted to, really like learn as much as it could. And I wanted to soak in and soak up actually other religions I remember. So I was born in this lifetime, at least, through the birth canal, through the Jewish canal, so to speak, um, with parents that were very open. My mom is an opera singer and music teacher,
Mm.
sang in Catholic churches in the AME churches. We would have people over for dinner, imams and priests and ministers. And I just grew up really comfy in any house, any space of the divine. And my dad also was in, the army and grew up in a very heavily Catholic area. So my family, it was not typical necessarily the way I grew up. And I just remember some of my favorite memories are, it was hearing my mom sing with the church or having these people over for dinner and just feeling like, oh, we're all the same. And it makes me want to cry. Like we're all one. I had a rabbi at the temple I went to that was just wonderful, so kind, so loving. And I remember I had this thought when I was about 8 or 9. It was like, I came home from something I was doing. And I just remember I had this insight, like, I loved people. And I was like, I want to teach, I only knew the word rabbi at that time. I just said, I want to be, maybe it's a rabbi, a teacher, something of like this love. I don't really know what I'm talking about. And my parents were like, wow, that's beautiful. Whatever your heart, follow that. I mean, I was very lucky. That's what they said. Follow your heart, do what your
Yeah.
heart loves. So fast forward, I chose to do a Sunday school, type of school when I was 16. And it was where we got to study comparative religion. And it was like, most kids were like, please don't make me go to Sunday school anymore. And I was like, please let me go to Sunday school.
That is rare.
So rare, right?
Yeah.
I loved it because we had people come in from all different religions and practices. And I remember feeling like I feel at home here and I feel at home with this and I feel at home, with the Hindu teacher and the Buddhist teacher and the Muslim teacher and the Christian teacher and the Jewish I knew a little more, but like every single, I remember just sitting in the front asking question after question after question after question. And it was like, I just want to understand and feel and know the divine. And I just early on was like, a moth to light. I just couldn't get enough of it. And I'll tell you, I actually pushed that down for quite a while because I think what my brain and ego said is, no, you've got to be like, quote unquote, smart. You've got to go to college, get a degree, go make money, go like have a family. You need to do smart things. And this spiritual stuff, like that's not smart. That's not intellectual. It was really, I remember, and just feeling that. And, I did end up like, I got married really young. Since then, consciously uncoupled with that person, remarried somebody else, different, just different spiritual, experiences. But I can just say that I traveled a lot, especially before kids, and was very fortunate to see a lot of holy sites around the world.
Mm.
A lot of holy sites, including, everything from in Turkey and Egypt to the Holy Land, just spent a lot of time kind of in that area, and then getting to Italy and Ireland, and just remember feeling like something very potent in those different places, even in the lands where I wasn't necessarily, from that religion. But I think, Sharon, for me, my fluency has been really in this oneness. Like I've always felt in my bones and my heart, we're all of the same thing. Like what
Yeah.
is going on? And I'll just say that for me, a very big shift was I had a pretty big dark night of the soul, big time, like woke up literally in the middle of the night, thought I was dying, and heard a voice that just said, you're not okay here. And I knew it was in my marriage. It was very scary. I was married to a very good person, just definitely different perspectives on religion and spirituality. And the moment I chose to just honor my truth, I got a lot of signs and messages. It's like my intuition at the same time, probably the only way to say it, I was always very in tune. I could hear and see and perceive a lot. And I just it freaked me out and I pushed it down. It like
Yeah.
magnified. I don't even know how to explain it. Just one of the gifts was I could not hear my voice anymore, my higher self. And it was scary. I had two very young kids, and I was leaving a family where you don't get divorced. My former husband's family, they're lovely and like great people. It's just, I knew somewhere that it just wouldn't be the right space to be able to explore myself spiritually. And after, exiting stage right in that marriage, and sort of coming into myself, I ended up getting into a personal development program and then in a film festival all about conscious living and cinema. I can get into these stories, but they're pretty amazing because what happened was really what pushed me into a whole new area where I would say
Mhm.
it's where I swim today.
Nice. Beautiful. Yeah. I I totally can relate to that feeling when you're in the wrong place, especially in a relationship. And and you hear that. I mean, I had a dark night of the soul too. I don't know if we talked about that. That lasted probably a couple months. And which is part of my writing in my book about that too. Where you hear that voice, it's you need to get out, need to get out. Yeah. But you don't, but you're terrified. I didn't have kids, so that was one thing that I didn't have to deal with, but still it's a terrified feeling,
Mm,
terrifying feeling, yeah. But good for you. It's not
yeah,
easy.
it's not easy. And, it was one of those, here's the thing, right? Like there was nothing really wrong. It
Mm,
wasn't, there was not abuse. I mean, he's still a good person, a really great dad. I'm very lucky. Like, we work pretty well together. It's like my soul woke me up. I mean, I literally, it was interesting because it was a full moon. It was 3:33 in the morning. Like
yeah.
at that time, I did not know a thing about that. And I just remember thinking, feeling, I thought I was dying because I was having a full on panic attack. And I just remember hearing it. And I was like, why am I not okay? I couldn't, it was not yet at the level of consciousness, but it was starting to. And that time of night, it was like,
Mm,
I couldn't miss it. It was really, it was one of the most challenging times of my entire life. I mean, I think that stress, I think there was a lot of stress that kind of took a hit from it. Yet it also is one of the most powerful times because I really chose to finally just trust myself and trust my intuition. And I just surrendered to it. And
right.
it's so fascinating because since then, I mean, this is almost 14-ish years ago, 13 years ago. Um, Almost everything that I'm doing, being who I am, like what you read, business, all of career, the light that I'm trying to emulate, this has come from a different place than how I was doing life before that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I would say that that was the me before, the before me, another life before in another life. In this life, but another life. It's kind of like another life, right?
Yeah.
S-
Yeah.
So, one thing about Julie is that Julie, you are also have a deep connection with Yeshua, correct? And Mary Magdalene. Do you mind sharing a little bit about that?
Yeah, and this is like, it's interesting. This was not expected, I would say, yet so I'll say this for me personally, I think when we start looking to what I feel like now is that greater these higher dimensions, right? Of
Mm,
the angel, the angelic, the spirit realm, it's I think when you say please help me, please guide me, right,
yeah.
whether you know the name or not, just be ready because
Yeah.
I didn't really know who I was really asking, hey God, and like all the helpers, like my all of the ancestors, the beings, the light be like wherever whoever you are, right? Like when I really started into this spiritual journey about 14 years ago, I wasn't really raised, I didn't know much about Yeshua, Jesus or Mary Magdalene. I mean, I didn't know much. I for me, it's taken a lot of time to just be open, but I will tell you, there's a couple things that cracked open, that just being open-hearted, open-minded. And I ended up, I was part of this very dear friend of mine, actually, who we're going to be talking today. She started this amazing film festival. I'd met her 20 years earlier. She was a student of mine when I did a program at University of Virginia, and she was a student, and I loved her. And I reconnected with her after doing this intense personal growth program, and something said to call her, and she ended up creating this beautiful, it's called the Illuminate Film Festival. It's in Sedona. It's had films from all over
Nice.
the world. Yeah. And one of the films, I just knew I got to go support her in this film. And it's brought in Reverend Michael Beckwith and other luminaries and teachers, Marianne Williamson, Neil Donald Walsh, all kinds of amazing people. And the first year that I went to go, I had this visceral reaction. One of the teachers there had her film there, and I watched it, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is so powerful. Her story is very powerful. She went through a lot of trauma and had a process there. She teaches healing at a very deep level. And I just knew, I'm like, I'm supposed to do something with her. I have no idea. And I had this interaction with her. It was one of the first times where, like, I was looking at her and we were speaking, not speaking. Like, I literally was like, what is happening? It is so natural. She's she's like all four clairs and very, very, very beyond. I mean, she can kind of read your energy and your cellular patterning. And I just stood there and I'm like, I feel like we're communicating. And I know I'm supposed to do, like, we're so opposite, yet I'm supposed to do her, I'm supposed to learn with her. So I got selected. She had 40 of us from all over the world. I went to, this is really neat. She chose a city in Michigan, and this lake in Michigan, not Lake Michigan, but it was one of the lower frequency areas in the country. And she wanted to bring us there to raise the vibration, which I thought was so cool.
Nice.
I spent a week there. And the reason I'm bringing this up is this was like in the beginning, as I had started also getting into science of mind, like the work of Ernest Holmes, law of attraction, oneness. My boyfriend, now husband at the time, had found that. And I loved those works, those teachings. And anyhow, I was in this week training with her and these 40 people from all over the world. And I had this one day, it was like the third day, and I had 6 people from literally like England and Scotland, and somebody I think was Canada and the States, and like all over, different people came up to me and said, has anyone ever told you that you are connected to Mary Magdalene? I was like, what? Wait, I thought she was a prostitute.
Like a
Like, I don't know the story
prostitute.
real
I know, right?
well. My best friend's Episcopalian. I like used to go there on Christmas and they had the incense, but like, I don't really know what you're talking about. And one was like, no, you're like, you have a soul stream that's connected to her. And I'm like, what is a soul stream? What are you talking about? What is this? I was very like 6 different people from different backgrounds who didn't know that they were each saying that. It was, what's really crazy is I actually am now thinking about it because it was right around, I'm like, oh, isn't that interesting? I think it was right around her feast day, which is nuts. I didn't even put this together, which I know is July 22nd. It was literally, I think, that week. So that's nuts. I'm pretty
So she was
positive.
close.
I have to look back. So I was like, huh? Who are you talking about? I don't actually, can you tell me who she is? Like, I don't know. And that's when I was kind of introduced to this, the whole Christ consciousness, what that means, those teachings and her teachings, and who Mary Magdalene is, who I love thinking of as Yeshua. Like, I know Hebrew, and for me, he comes to me as a teacher. Like, I just really, his teachings, I think of him, it's funny. I grew up with my mom saying, oh, he was like a lovely rabbi who just had different teachings. Like, that's kind of how my mom talked about him. He was a rabbi with different teachings. And I was like, oh, well, he's one of my rabbis. He's just, his teachings, he's masterful. I mean, that's understatement. So
Yeah.
yeah, that was the beginning. And I came home and then started getting connected to other women who they were like, you need to talk to her. And this one, they're all connected as well. And I started reading books and studying, and just was like, oh my gosh, this is what I felt in my heart when I was little. Like, I had no name, I had no religion attached. And so I say that because for me, and there's no, I hope no disrespect to those with labels that are, or religion to it. For me, it feels so um, natural, angelic, divine for everybody. Like, it doesn't
Right.
matter your zip code, it doesn't matter your address, it doesn't matter your gender, it doesn't matter your religion. It does nothing, none of that matters. Like, these
Right.
teachings feel like love and the truth. Um, and so that was my entree to Mary Magdalene. And I just, everything I've read and read about her, I'm, and bringing in more of that divine feminine, that consciousness of love, of receiving, of feminine, that high priestess energy. I mean,
Mhm.
anyhow, I'm not by any means an expert at all. It's just, I feel like there's something that feels like I know this already, and yet I'm like remembering and rediscovering. So that's where I am. And I'm very grateful to be this open and able to kind of take in these different teachings. And frankly, I feel like these beautiful beings, when I call upon them, like I can feel that energy, and
Right.
it's just a gift.
Yeah. It's it is. It's a total gift, and it's who we are. When we connect with that, then it's so familiar, like you're saying, it's so familiar, right? And I know when I was working with Mary Magdalene Yeshua, I began working with. They led me to work with ISIS. So it's the similar energies. It's the feminine Christ, I guess you can call it.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and so it doesn't have any religious dogma with it. It doesn't have any type of, like you said, label to it. It's just, it's bringing, for me, what I understand about it is it's just bringing in that divine feminine back into who we are, streaming it back onto the planet because it's been so misaligned, and bringing it back and anchoring it on. Oh, I don't want to cry. Ooh, anchoring it back onto the planet,
Yeah.
and also helping Mother Earth, Gaia, yeah, with that as well, with helping her. So yeah, it's beautiful, and I love that. I love that people came up to you and said, you know,
Yeah. It's like, what?
who?
Who? What is she about? Like, and they were like, no one's told you. I was like, nope, no one has told me that yet. Never
Yep,
heard that. But now today I have. So I'm going to
nice.
explore that. 6 people, which is interesting. 6 as the number.
6. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yes.
What's funny is when I started connecting with her, and yeah, so which I and as we learn about her and connect with her, for me anyway, and we become one with her. So it's not that she's out here and we're here, it's we become one. The same with Yeshua, as we become one within, the masculine, the feminine, and Christ did part of us, remembering that, and we become one with them. um yeah, it was and I'm always paying attention to my dreams all the time anyway, and travels and out of my experiences and things. And at the time I was reading Joshua Stone's Ascension Manuals books.
Mm,
And so I ended up in the higher temples in some of his classes.
mm,
And I remember distinctly that he was talking about Mary Magdalene as a prostitute in the class. And I'm like, in the class, I'm like, wait a minute. I'm like, oh. I remember that he and I had this big argument about Mary Magdalene. There was, first of all, it was never said in the Bible that she was a prostitute. The Yeah, that the Mary Magdalene that is Yeshua's counterpart was a prostitute. It was another woman named Mary, what I understand. There's lots of Marys that had that name, and I believe it's kind of like well, it's a common name, but also I believe it has to do with the title or something. I'm not sure as well. Yeah. Anyway,
mm.
we in the higher planes, here I am arguing with Joshua Stone. Just because he wrote a series on ascension doesn't mean he's right, is what I was thinking.
Yes.
That was funny. So it just shows how deep that myth has been ingrained into our society and our belief system, the program.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
It's interesting. Finally, I dabbled in A Course in Miracles, and I'm finally now doing it like literally one lesson every day. I have a beautiful mentor working with me. My husband and I are doing it together, and it just, it's like, it's all connected, to those teachings, which I keep coming back to. Sometimes I look around, I'm like, wow, it feels very upside down. This
Mhm.
world feels very,
That's what he's always told me. We live in upside down world.
hey,
Yeshua.
because
Yeah.
literally the other day, I'm like, hold on, I'm a little confused. I literally feel like everything is like whatever you think, like flip it on
Flip
its,
it.
yes. And it's these teachings, it's, to me, it's like, if for those of us who want to end suffering and feeling the not good enough. It's actually, my next book is about this, like the not good
Yes.
enough, not enoughness,
Hmm.
this crazy, endless gaping hole that like it only gets filled with, the divine, with spirit. And um I've done other works as well, but I have to say this has been, I know this being a channeled work, from his work as well. It is it's fascinating to see the programming, right? The conditioning
Yes,
we've all been under.
it is. And it's been a long time. But the good news is that we are undoing it,
Yes.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Mm.
That's one of the things I loved, with your energy. I could just feel you. And I was like, oh, this woman is like living this work, the way of love, you're living it and you're expressing it. And to me, anybody that's here to help shift what's happening, I'm like, yep, I'm on your team, sister. I don't
Uh,
care where we come from, what our religions are. It doesn't matter to me as long as we're
right.
talking, love and oneness and that unity consciousness. Um,
Hmm.
that's what I'm here for.
Right. That's what it's all about. Definitely.
Yeah.
There's another book that you might enjoy after A Course in Miracles, another lifelong study. I don't know if you is The Way of Mastery. Another, have you heard of it?
I
Did I tell
have
you
heard
about
of
that?
it.
Okay.
Yes.
I just found out about it last month or two, I guess. And I can't get past the first page. I'm reading the Yeshua letters still, but it's like, whoo, okay. Every time I read that first page, it's like, okay, I love that so much. I have to read it again before I even go.
My gosh.
It's pretty
Wow.
powerful. Yeah.
That'll be next when after I'm on
That's
30, after 365, I'm like, then I'll go into the way of mastery. I love it.
there's so much out there for us. There really is. And
Oh
it's
my goodness.
yeah, I
Yeah.
always go with what resonates, of course, everyone. But yeah, the law of one is another lifelong study.
Oh, I was gonna bring up the love one.
Yay.
I just, oh my gosh. I mean, I had a conversation with somebody recently who's very versed in it, and I was like, I just keep going, keep explaining, because I've been listening and listening, and it's so powerful. The raw material is just, to me, I'm like, yep, this
Hmm.
feels this feels expansive enough. This feels like cosmic truth. This feels right to me.
Yeah.